Can you imagine walking in on your husband and the one person you trusted the most, stuck together but naked right there on your own wedding bed? Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't cry. I wasn't paralyzed. I'd been ready for that exact moment for 6 months, planning the perfect payback. They thought they'd won by forging my signature to steal the coffee shop I'd built over 35 years. My plan went way beyond swapping their lube for super glue. That glue didn't just lock their bodies together. It sealed shut the dark conspiracy my own husband and his mistress were cooking up behind my back. The worst had been exposed, but the way I handled it didn't make people hate me. It made them remember the lesson forever. You might be just like me. You'll never guess who the mistress was, and honestly, if you stick around until the end, I bet you won't stop laughing. If you've ever felt the heartbreaking sting of betrayal from the person you loved most, hit subscribe right now to join our journey toward justice and healing. Comment I support if you believe the truth always deserves to come out. I'm Maria, the owner of a cute little coffee shop right here in buzzing Austin, Texas. My lattes and tiramisu are basically the story of my American dream, my sheer resilience. If the pain and the fire for revenge I felt gives you the chills or reminds you of silent wounds, share it with me. Comment your city and your own story of betrayal. I want to know how far this journey has reached, and who knows, maybe we can heal these scars together. I'm standing behind the counter, the soft yellow light catching the gray in my hair, tracing a heart onto the latte foam. It feels like telling this whole story to an old friend. My eyes look sad, sure, but there is a fire burning in them, a quiet determination. The air in the house felt suffocating, like stale coffee clinging to the walls. An uneasy silence hung between us. The grandfather clock, a wedding gift from my late mother, kept ticking, sharp and steady. Each tick felt like a needle digging into my gut, reminding me that the marriage I thought was solid might have just been a well-staged play. Vincent, my husband, a 58-year-old construction engineer, shuffled in late from a work party. He looked exhausted, but it was a shady kind of exhaustion, like the secret he was carrying was just too heavy. The lines around his eyes and mouth were deeper than ever. He threw his jacket onto the sofa, a theatrical, slumped move. He struggled with his buttons like he couldn't breathe, then just crashed onto the couch. The springs squeaked. He didn't even bother to shower. His expensive cologne lingered, but now it was mixed with this strange, floral sweet perfume. I'd smelled it somewhere, but I couldn't place it. It felt like a blatant intrusion, a confession from a hidden corner of his life. It wasn't long before his steady snores started. That sound used to be the signal for peace, but tonight it just sounded like bitter mockery, lulling me into a fool's nightmare. I glanced up at our wedding photo, my face glowing next to Vincent on a Santa Monica sunset, him holding my hand, whispering forever. That promise felt like a gust of wind, vanished into the kitchen's cold air. I got up, moving silently, out of a 35-year habit. I started clearing the mess he'd left. Jacket, wallet, phone, his old laptop. The phone screen was still lit. A text was flashing like a red warning light. I frowned. Vincent never texted. Maria, he'd always whine, all this text stuff is too complicated. Just call. But there it was, bright on the screen, a ghost from the secret life he was leading, driven by a dark curiosity both wrong and irresistible. I tapped it open. Just a few short words, but enough to make my heart stop dead. You were amazing last night. Stud. Can't wait for our next quickie at the usual lounge. Followed by a red heart and a kiss emoji. The word stud and that intimate tone hit me like a razor blade slicing through my chest. I froze. I felt punched. The screen looked like shattered glass, revealing a truth I hadn't dared face. Who called him that? With that sickening sweetness? I scrolled down, my fingers trembling, looking for more but nothing. Just a strange number, a jumbled series of characters that gave nothing away, yet fueled every suspicion. A chill ran down my spine, not from the night air, but from a bone-deep panic. It was like the wall of my marriage had just cracked open, revealing a hidden room I'd never been allowed into. I stood there, clutching the countertop, feeling the floor tilt under me, like my whole world was collapsing. 35 years of marriage, was it all just a damn lie? I turned back to the sofa. Vincent was shifting, snoring softly. His face was relaxed, so peaceful it made me furious. Such a stark contrast to the emotional tornado tearing through me. My own heart was pounding like a caught thief's. The frantic, guilty rhythm felt so undeserved. I shoved the phone back into place. My hands were shaking. I almost dropped it. I tried to pull myself together, just mindlessly going through the motions of cleaning. Fumbling through Vincent's jacket pockets, my fingers brushed against something new, crisp, and neatly folded. A receipt. It was from a fancy lounge bar right here in Austin. Dated tonight. My face twisted. Austin? Wait a minute. He told me he was stuck in Houston. A bitter laugh escaped me. Vincent always griped about going to Houston. But Austin? He talked about this place like it was his childhood playground. So who the hell was he having dinner with in Austin while he was supposed to be miles away? The receipt was for two people. A $200 tab. And the killer? Two old fashions, the cocktail tied to our 10th anniversary, a memory I thought was sacred. No hesitation. I pulled up my banking app. Just as I figured, a $200 charge confirmed it. He was at that upscale lounge, not stuck on some highway near Houston. My mind flashed to that bar, the dim neon light, the soft leather chairs, the quiet jazz, the kind of place for hushed, intimate secrets. I tried to remember the last time he took me anywhere like that. 10 years ago, maybe, when I opened the shop. I could still see his beaming smile, calling me his queen, raising that old fashioned to my success. Now, those sweet memories turned to ash. It felt like watching a beautiful painting get ripped out of a fake photo album. My own anniversary cocktail felt like a knife twisting in my heart. Every sip he took was a reminder of this brutal betrayal. With a quiet, iron resolve, I pulled out my phone and took photos, the receipt, the text, evidence. I didn't want to believe it, but after 35 years, a wife's gut feeling, that's deep instinct. You can't ignore it. Something shady was definitely going on. I had to find the truth. My hands were shaking like crazy, not just from the rage, but the sheer terror of my life falling apart. I was standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the crash. I stepped into the garage, heavy as lead. Vincent's car engine was still warm. The air was thick with gasoline and that strange perfume from his jacket. I opened the car door. A cold dread tightened my stomach. Using my phone flashlight, I scanned the driver's seat. Nothing but spare change and an empty water bottle. But then, a twist. When I popped the trunk, my hand hit something slick. I pulled it out. A half-used tube of personal lubricant. The cap was messy with dried residue, a slimy, undeniable piece of evidence. Right next to it, a Viagra bottle, lid loose, a few pills missing. I stood frozen in the pitch-black garage, staring at those things. It was the physical embodiment of my nightmare. We hadn't been intimate in years. He always blamed it on getting older, so who was this lube and Viagra for? That question hit me like a punch to my fragile reality. My body was numb, but my mind was laser-focused on the truth. I felt sick to my stomach, like I'd just touched his dirtiest secret. Then it happened. Headlights blazed into the garage. Vincent was home 30 minutes early. My heart stopped. I slammed the trunk shut and walked out, stone-faced, like nothing was wrong. Vincent got out, frowning. "What are you doing in the garage so late?" Quick as a flash, I pointed. "Neighbor's cat got in." Just chasing it out, he gave me this long, hard look, then muttered, "Get inside." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding, but I knew I just crossed a very dangerous line. The second I got inside, I bolted for the bathroom. I scrubbed my hands raw with paper towels, like I could physically wash away the evidence of betrayal I just touched. The next morning, as soon as Vincent left for work, I went straight back to the garage. This time, I dug deeper. Under the back seat, I found crumpled tissues drenched in that sweet, strange perfume. One of them had a faint, blurred red lipstick print, the silent scream of another woman. That foreign scent felt like a rude declaration of war. Right there in the peaceful silence of my own garage, I quickly snapped pictures of the lube, the Viagra, the tissues. Then I checked his car's GPS history. It confirmed multiple late-night visits to that fancy lounge. I activated my tracking app. My whisper was cold, dangerous. You are going to pay. The wind howled through the garage window, chilling me to the bone, but my rage was hardening into pure, icy resolve. I went back inside and grabbed Vincent's phone again. His call log was all work, but his text inbox, suspiciously empty. He'd clearly wiped everything clean. I moved on to his desk drawer, found an old hotel receipt undated, but with a clear signature. I crushed the paper in my fist. My eyes narrowed. I'm going to get every single detail, I promised myself. All night, the images, the lube, the Viagra, the receipt, the text kept looping in my head. A toxic, relentless cycle of doubt. My coffee shop in downtown Austin was bustling, business as usual. The old espresso machine hissed. The smell of latte and tiramisu filled the air, the space where I'd poured my heart and soul into my American dream. The thriving business was my pride, but it couldn't touch the pain in my soul. I was in the kitchen, hands busy, mind completely fractured. I fixed a simple breakfast: eggs, toast, and the strong black coffee Vincent likes. Memories flashed back, the fresh flowers he brought home for every anniversary. That habit died years ago. I hadn't slept a wink. Vincent dragged himself downstairs, hair messed up, eyes still puffy. He slumped into his chair, took one sip, and left the coffee half full. Got a big meeting today, he mumbled, his voice raspy, same old line, barely looking at me. I'll be late. What a master manipulator, I thought. His seamless lies, that calm tone, it froze my blood. I forced a tight smile. Inside, I was screaming. A meeting with who? Back to Austin, huh? But I suppressed it. I let the anger simmer, only saying, okay, honey, be careful. He got up, gave my shoulder a quick, half-hearted pat, more of an obligation than affection, and rushed out. The door slammed. I was left in the quiet kitchen, the suspicion growing into a monstrous thing. Every plate I scrubbed was like a countdown, an anchor in my emotional breakdown. It felt like I was trying to wash away his lies. The routine helped me stay sane, maintaining a fragile composure while the tsunami hit inside. I couldn't just guess anymore. What would you do next? Hit the comments and let me know. This drama is just getting started. I needed the truth. Undeniable, stone cold proof. I grabbed my phone, scrolling for Mrs. Garcia's number. An old friend. She helped me when the shop first started. She'd once mentioned a great private investigator for cheating cases. Maria, if you ever need it, I have Ramirez's number, she'd said. He's discreet, totally reliable. I never thought I'd use it, but I had no choice. I dialed, my voice trembling, every ring an anxious drumbeat in my chest. Mrs. Garcia? I need Ramirez. I need him. She was silent for a heavy second. She understood. Maria, what's wrong? Is it Vincent? I sighed, my pride burning. I just need the truth. Can you help me? Mrs. Garcia, quiet but sharp, agreed instantly. An hour later, I got a text from Ramirez. Meeting at noon. My coffee shop. The scent of latte and tiramisu, usually my comfort, now felt alien. Don't worry, Mrs. Martinez. I'll help. The message was short, but it felt like a lifeline in a sea of lies. I met him at a secluded table, a small, dark corner where no one would notice me. I felt like a ghost in my own sunlit room. Ramirez walked in, a stocky, middle-aged guy in a worn jacket. His voice was deep, his eyes sharp. He looked like he saw right through me. I handed him the flash drive with all the photos. The stud text, the lounge receipt, the lube, the Viagra, the perfume-stained tissues, the hotel bill, the GPS history. This is everything I have, I whispered, my voice cracked. I'm not sure, but I think. My husband is having an affair. The words were bitter, like burnt coffee. Ramirez nodded, examining the photos, his face completely professional, masking his thoughts. He jotted notes in a small pad. Mrs. Martinez, I get it. I'll start tracking Mr. Vincent this afternoon. Don't worry. I'll report back ASAP. He handed me a card. Discreet solutions, a silent promise. I looked at him, fighting back the tears. Thank you, I choked out. I just need to know the truth, whatever it is. He gave me a look of genuine sympathy. I'll do my best. Go home and don't do anything to make him suspicious. I left the shop, wading through the lunch crowd, feeling a loneliness I'd never known. 35 years. My whole life built on trust was crumbling. I thought Vincent was my rock. He used to stand behind the counter, laughing, helping me make lattes. Now I was hiring a stranger to follow him. It was acid in my mouth. I felt like a character in a movie, a role I never wanted. That evening, back at the coffee shop, the familiar scent of flour and vanilla offered no comfort. I stood behind the counter, the pendant lights reflecting off the latte in my hand. I was checking a delivery receipt when my phone vibrated. It was Ramirez. My heart pounded, ready to explode. I opened the message. The photo loaded. Vincent, in his usual blue shirt, walking into a fancy restaurant. Hand in hand with a woman, I zoomed in. My heart stopped. It was Sophia, my daughter-in-law, Lucas's wife. She wore a sexy red dress, bright red lipstick, her hair loose. She looked exactly like a mistress on a dirty date. This brutal truth hit me like a physical punch. I couldn't breathe. I zoomed in again. Sophia, the girl I treated like my own daughter. Her smile, once so sweet, now looked sharp and cruel. How could she do this to me? They were leaning toward each other, sharing some intimate, filthy secret. I sank onto a stool, my hands shaking. Sophia? It made no sense. At family gatherings, they were always distant, barely talking. She used to apologize, saying she was uncomfortable around her father-in-law. It was a perfectly executed act, a masterpiece of a lie playing out right in front of me. Ramirez sent more photos. They were in a secluded corner booth, the table set with candles and fresh flowers. Sophia was radiant. Vincent was raising his glass, his eyes filled with a tenderness I had never seen before. The candlelight reminded me of the sunset when Vincent gave me a silver ring carved with "Forever," a promise now shattered. My chest ached like I'd been stabbed. In 35 years, I had never seen him look at me that way. That look now belonged to Sophia. I sat on the floor after closing, hugging my knees, silent tears staining the wood. I felt shoved into an abyss, my happy memories dissolving into shards. Later that night, at a video dropped from Ramirez. I put on my headphones, my hand trembling as I hit play. In the video, Sophia whispered something into Vincent's ear. He threw his head back and let out a huge, deep laugh, a sound I didn't even recognize. Her eyes were sparkling under the restaurant lights. Then they stood up. Vincent, the gentleman, opened the car door for her, treating her like his true, beloved partner. I watched it over and over, each loop a fresh cut to my heart. Sophia, the daughter-in-law I taught my family's tiramisu recipe to, and Vincent, the man I built my entire life with. I remembered him joking, "I'm barista number 2, right behind you." What were they doing behind my back? Behind Lucas's back? The questions hit like a tsunami, drowning me in pure agony. I clutched the cold latte mug. Where did I go wrong? I saved all the photos and videos to the USB, meticulously noting the dates, times, and restaurant names. My world was imploding, but the coffee shop felt like the only thing I still controlled. I touched the framed family photo on the wall, thinking of Lucas and the future of the shop, my life's work. The next morning, the smell of vanilla and flour offered no solace. The grinder whirred. A regular customer smiled, calling me the tiramisu queen. I was signing a large hotel delivery order, my hand shaking badly. The phone in my apron pocket vibrated. A text from Ramirez. I took a deep breath, but my hand was still trembling as I opened it. A new set of photos appeared. Vincent in his familiar gray shirt, leaving a law office near the main square. Next to him was Sophia, in a beige business skirt, hair tied back, sunglasses covering half her face, a clumsy attempt at disguise. They were walking close, looking exactly like a hot couple, not in-laws. Their body language screamed forbidden intimacy. The next photo shook me to my core. They were standing in front of a luxury seaside resort in Austin, the infinity pool sparkling. I zoomed in, desperately searching for any sign of denial. There was none. They looked too natural, too comfortable, like they belonged to a world where I was permanently excluded. A short video clip dropped from Ramirez. I hit play. My heart was drumming against my ribs. The shot was distant, but clear enough. Vincent and Sophia on a third-floor balcony, overlooking the vast ocean. His arm was around her waist. She leaned her head on his shoulder, her long hair blowing in the wind. They held hands, looking out at the water. Sophia giggled. Then, like the final stab, they shared a quick kiss. No attempt to hide it. It was fast, but it burned every last bit of hope right out of me. That was it. Game over. I gripped my phone, silent tears streaming, then wiped them furiously. I stood straight behind my coffee bar, like defending my kingdom in downtown Austin. This was my shop, built with blood, sweat, and tiramisu. They wanted to steal it? No damn way. I replayed the video. Every frame was a slow-motion walk into hell. The curtain moved. Sophia stepped out, hugging Vincent tight, her face radiant like a girl in love. I sank onto a chair, gripping the table edge to keep from collapsing. Ramirez's text followed. They booked the room for the entire afternoon. Looks like they're staying overnight. I'll keep tracking. I read it over and over, my throat tight, choked. Just hours ago, Vincent texted me, "Maria won't be home tonight. Gotta meet out-of-town partners. Get some rest." The sweet, familiar tone, but I knew it was all a lie. Partners? He was right here, at a seaside Austin resort, with our daughter-in-law. I stared at the screen, remembering Los Angeles, where he stroked my hair and promised forever. Sophia gave me pink carnations on Mother's Day. All fake. I looked in the mirror. Deep wrinkles. I wondered what I missed. It was like looking at a stranger. Attention hook call out. What would you do with this evidence? Comment your best plan. You gotta stick around to see what happened next. I plugged in my portable hard drive. Carefully, I saved every photo, every video. With each click, I scrutinized the images, making sure this wasn't a nightmare. Vincent's gaze in the video was heartbreakingly tender, like Sophia was his whole world. The way he ran his hand through her hair was the same gesture he used on me 35 years ago, under the stars near Lady Bird Lake. He swore our love would be eternal. Now, all I saw was brazen betrayal. I remember family dinners. They put on this perfect show. Sophia always sat far from him, sometimes giving him this weird look. Lucas, my son, used to joke, "Mom, I think Sophia hates Dad. She avoids him like the plague." I believed it. Thought they just didn't click, but it was a masterful performance. A meticulously choreographed dance of deception. Sophia's Mother's Day flowers? A chilling lie. They played us all. Lucas, the whole neighborhood. I felt like such an absolute fool. Ramirez, my silent hunter, had captured every single minute of my shattered reality. I texted him back. "Thank you. Keep going. I need everything." His reply, "Will do. Stay calm." That night, I went back to the house. It was supposed to be my home with Vincent. Now it felt like an empty, cold shell, filled with ghosts and lies. I stood in our bedroom, staring at the bed where we'd planned our future. I pulled open a drawer. My hands moved with cold purpose. I printed out all the evidence. Photos of the law office, the resort, the balcony, every video frame. I organized them, sealed them in a thick envelope, and hid it under old family photos in the bottom drawer. I stared at a photo of the four of us: Vincent, Sophia, Lucas, and me at Lucas's birthday. Sophia was smiling, hugging Lucas. Vincent stood next to me, his hand on my shoulder, looking proud. My silver forever ring sparkled. That vow was broken. I wanted to tear the photo up, erase their fake smiles. Before dawn, I heard the front door quietly open. Vincent stumbled in, smelling heavily of alcohol. Tough partners, Maria, he slurred, his voice thick, eyes bloodshot. Had to drink a lot. I'm dead tired. I stood in the kitchen, gripping my glass of water. I watched him act. The reflection of the blurry streetlights in the window seemed to expose his deceit. It was like rubbing salt into the wound. Get some rest, I replied in the calm voice of a good wife. You have work tomorrow. He nodded, gave me a dismissive pat as if nothing happened, and stumbled into the bedroom. Minutes later, the steady sound of snoring filled the house. As if he hadn't betrayed me, hadn't been at a resort with our daughter-in-law, when I was sure Vincent was asleep, my phone vibrated. Ramirez. His voice was low, careful. Mrs. Martinez. I recorded their conversation in the resort parking lot. The sound of the waves and the night wind is in the background. I used special equipment. They had no idea. Sending it now, my heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you, Ramirez. Send the file. Minutes later, an audio file appeared. I put on my headphones, sat at the kitchen table, and pressed play. Sophia's voice, cold and ambitious, sounded like a stranger. Dad, hurry up with that fake contract. I want the whole coffee shop chain soon. We need to kick the nagging old woman out of the house. Sophia's voice, a punch to my gut. My hand clenched the phone. Nagging old woman? Me? I taught her how to make tiramisu. I treated her like my own daughter. She was clearly jealous of my success, of the shop she wanted to seize. And Vincent? He probably felt threatened by a successful wife, so he sought a younger woman to prop up his pathetic ego. Then Vincent's voice, low and confident. Don't worry about the paperwork. Maria doesn't know a thing. I'll handle it. She trusts me implicitly. They even mentioned insurance fraud, discussing my coffee shop as just a pawn in their dirty plan. Their words were razor blades twisting in my heart. They weren't just cheating. They were planning to steal my entire life's work, my coffee shop chain. All my sweat, tears, the sleepless nights, hand pouring every latte, driving all over Austin for deliveries to keep my reputation. It was all mine. Vincent never once worked the counter or signed a hotel contract. Now, he and Sophia wanted to take everything, to kick me out of the home I built. I listened to that recording until a.m. and discovered a detail that turned my blood to ice. In the fake power of attorney, they claimed I had a mild stroke leading to temporary cognitive impairment. That paper had already been quietly filed with the bank. This meant all it would take was one accidental medical evaluation, and my entire business could be transferred to Vincent, my legal representative. I slumped down, not from fear, but from the crushing realization my police officer's son, Lucas, would have to arrest his own wife. But if I didn't act, they wouldn't just take my business, they'd take my life. I had barely 2 hours before they woke up. Desperation turned into a strange, cold calm. My brain finally clicked into focus. I had to be stone cold. With shaking hands, I copied the audio file to the USB drive with the other evidence. I meticulously noted the dates and locations, trying to anchor myself against the storm. After saving the audio, I sat quietly in the small office behind the bar. The dim yellow light shone on the family photo. Lucas's bright smile next to Sophia on their wedding day broke my heart. I couldn't let my son stay blind to this betrayal. With still trembling hands, I called Lucas. The phone rang a few times before his voice came on, tired but warm. Mom, what is it? I'm on patrol, busy. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady, but the worry broke through. Lucas, Sophia seems off. You're busy, but you need to pay attention to your wife. A short silence. Then Lucas's gruff reply. Mom, I trust Sophia. Work is crazy. But she wouldn't do anything wrong, I sighed. Putting the phone down, my eyes fixed on the family photo, Lucas, my busy son, still believed in their fake happiness. My heart was heavy, but I promised myself, I will protect you. No matter how painful the truth is, I touched the frame, trying to hug Lucas's innocent smile, and I knew I had to keep going for him. And for the coffee shop dream I spent my life building, the next morning, the espresso machine hissed, a silent witness to the years I poured into my dream. The smell of vanilla and flour offered no comfort. My phone vibrated. Ramirez sent a new batch of telephoto shots. In the photos, Vincent and Sophia sat in a car, a thick stack of papers between them. Sophia was marking documents with a red pen, focused. She once spilled coffee on my kitchen floor and apologized, saying I was the best now. It was all a lie. Vincent sat next to her, nodding and smiling, fully in agreement. Ramirez added, I overheard them. They planned to use a friendly notary to finalize the transfer. They mentioned insurance fraud to seize the shop. I'll dig deeper. I zoomed in on the photo, trying to read the papers. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew it wasn't normal business paperwork. They were plotting to steal everything I worked for, one step at a time. I sat there, surrounded by trays of fragrant tiramisu, but it felt like my whole damn world was falling apart. I put my headphones back on, listening to every word of the recording. Nagging old woman, that's what Sophia called me. I remembered when she first married Lucas, how I taught her to make lattes, how I hugged her like a daughter. And Vincent, the man I loved since I was a young girl here in Austin, the one who swore he'd be with me forever. He carved our names into the old oak tree by Lady Bird Lake, telling me our love would last as long as the tree. They had made a mockery of me, a fool who still believed in love and family. Just then, Mrs. Lopez, a regular, walked in for some treats for her grandkids. Maria, your coffee chain is booming. I'm so proud of you, she said warmly. She called me a strong woman. Her sincerity hit me hard. I forced a smile. Thank you. I'm doing my best. After she left, I collapsed onto a stool, clutching my head. I wanted to scream, to cry, but the tears just wouldn't come. Instead, a cold, focused anger started burning in my core, like the fire in my oven, ready to explode. That night, I sat across from Vincent in the kitchen. The flickering candlelight distorted his face, making him look strangely menacing. He ate and talked like the world hadn't ended, like everything was completely normal. Maria, I have some big papers to sign this week. Maybe you should look them over. They're complicated, he said. His voice was smooth, but I heard the lie, like a knife hidden behind a smile. I bit into a piece of bread, pretending to eat, but all I heard was Sophia's voice. Hurry up with that fake contract. I knew he was testing me, trying to pull me into their filth. I gave a tired, weak laugh. Maybe later, honey. I'm exhausted. He nodded, took a sip of his drink, looking at me like nothing was wrong. But I knew. Behind that smile was a predator waiting for the right moment. Vincent had a few more drinks. His face was flushed. He started mumbling about some difficult client. I nodded, pretending to listen, but inside I wanted to scream. Do you think I'm that stupid? I gripped the bread knife under the table. The blade was cold, like the revenge taking root in my mind. When he finally stumbled to the bedroom, snoring instantly, I started clearing the table. Slow, deliberate movements, controlling the rage boiling inside. He'd passed out hard, leaving his car keys on the nightstand. They gleamed under the dim lamp. I looked at the keys. Then I looked at the bed, once our sanctuary, now the stage for betrayal. It was an invitation. I crept into the room. Not a sound. Each step was the line between pain and cold resolve. I grabbed the keys, squeezed them tight, and headed straight to the garage. The night was quiet. Crickets chirped, the soundtrack to my silent fury. I flicked on my phone flashlight. The weak beam hit Vincent's old SUV, the silent accomplice to his affair. I opened the car door. The gasoline smell still mixed with that sickly sweet perfume. I popped the trunk. There it was. The half-used lube, the loose cap, the dried residue, the very symbol of his infidelity. Next to it, the Viagra and some condoms. More daggers to the heart. I picked up the tube. It felt like holding their dirty secret. Attention hook call out. What would you do with these things right now? Comment below. The best part is next.it was clear they'd used the lube again. A fresh confirmation they were still playing their sickening game. I carried the tube into the kitchen, set it on the counter, and washed my hands vigorously with lemon soap. I scrubbed hard, trying to wipe off the feeling of betrayal. The lemon scent didn't calm the rage, but it focused me. I stood there, under the dim kitchen light, remembering the nights Vincent and I stood here, brewing coffee, dreaming of expanding the chain. Now, I was alone. I pulled open the utility drawer. I took out a tube of clear super glue, the kind I used to fix rickety chairs in the shop. My professional tool was now my weapon of choice. I carefully twisted off the lubricant cap and squeezed every drop of the super glue inside until it was completely full. I wiped the nozzle clean, shook the tube gently to mix, and squeezed a tiny bit out. It flowed smoothly, exactly like the original gel. No one would notice the difference. I held the sealed tube of super glue. My eyes were gleaming with the same focused intensity of the woman who built a coffee empire in the heart of Austin. I whispered, I hope you to use lots this time. Lots and lots. I didn't know if I was destroying their lives or finally saving mine. But I knew one thing. Tonight would be the night they never ever forgot. I gave a grim smile. This wasn't a game. This was step one to getting justice. I carefully placed the super glue tube back in the trunk. I smoothed the car carpet, adjusted the seat, making sure there were zero traces. I closed the car door. I popped the trunk one last time. Just some crumpled trash, an empty water bottle, and a lonely, unused condom. It hurt, no joke, but I wasn't surprised anymore. I took another photo. Each picture was like a stab wound, but it was also a brick in the wall of justice I was building. Vincent and Sophia wouldn't get away with this. Back inside, I placed the car keys back next to Vincent's alarm clock. I watched the second-hand tick, slow and deliberate, knowing time was finally on my side, waiting for the moment of truth. I grabbed an old book and pretended to read on the living room sofa. I saw none of the words. My head was reeling. I kept thinking about Lucas, my son. He still believes in this fake happiness with Sophia. I remember him boasting to customers, my mom makes the best tiramisu in Austin. How could I tell him his wife and his father were working together to destroy us? I thought about the coffee chain, 35 years of hard labor, sleepless nights, fights with Vincent just to protect my dream. I thought he supported me. Now I knew he was just waiting for the right moment to steal it all. I gripped the book, remembering my mother's old letter, urging me to chase this dream. That letter was my anchor. An hour later, Vincent woke up. He stumbled into the kitchen for water. He saw the keys, completely clueless. Still up, Maria? He slurred. His eyes were bloodshot, but the fake, sleepy smile was still there. I smiled back. Just reading a bit. Go back to sleep. He drank his water, shuffled back, and started snoring instantly. I looked at him, a stranger now. The man who promised me forever was trying to destroy the one thing I loved most. He had no idea I'd already struck back. Dawn broke. The birds chirping sounded like a silent power-up for my plan. I was up early, pouring all my anger into kneading dough for a huge hotel order. I forced a stone-cold composure for breakfast. Vincent, I said, casual as hell. I've got to fly to Memphis tomorrow. Big contract signing. I'll be back late. Can you handle your own dinner? I glanced at him. Calm eyes, hiding the fire. He snapped his head up, surprised. But in his eyes, there was no worry. Just pure, sickening relief. Big contract? Yeah, go. Don't worry. I got this. The light in his eyes, the slight curve of his mouth, it was the look of a heavy burden lifted. He wanted me gone. I knew exactly why. I smiled, nodding. Thanks. I'll call you if I'm delayed. He took a sip of coffee, stood up, saying he needed to get to the office early. As he left, he forgot his phone on the table. It buzzed. A missed call popped up. Thomas. My blood pounded. Sophia Thomas. Of course. Before I could even touch it, Vincent whipped back, snatching the phone, killing the screen right in front of my face. Forgot this, he mumbled, giving a weak laugh before vanishing again. I stood there, staring at the closed door. A total slap in the face. He wasn't even trying to hide it anymore, all day. I worked like a robot, delivering pastries, signing invoices, smiling at customers. Mrs. Lopez walked in, praising me. Maria, you are the heart of Austin. This shop is our home. I smiled, but my heart felt squeezed dry. My mind only spun around Vincent and Sophia. I needed more evidence. I needed to hear their voices again when they thought they were safe. That evening, I played the final lie. I told Vincent I was exhausted. I have to catch an early bus tomorrow, so I'm going to sleep now. He patted my shoulder. Rest well, Maria. Be careful on the road. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I listened. Close to midnight, the snoring stopped. I heard him carefully, oh so carefully, slip out of bed. His phone light flared in the dark. He left the room, thinking I was out cold. I waited, heart hammering against my ribs. Then, I slid out of bed, following his ghost steps. I hid behind the thick living room curtains. The night wind outside whistled my accomplice in this final, quiet rage. I saw him standing in the dark corner near the window, phone pressed to his ear. He whispered, "Yeah, come straight to the house tomorrow. No need for the hotel. Maria is gone for her contract signing, back late." A giggle echoed. Sophia's sweet voice. "Perfect, Dad. Finally, we can relax." Vincent chuckled. "Yeah, come early. I'll be waiting." I stood behind the curtain, gripping the doorframe, wanting to crush their deceit. My blood was boiling. They weren't just cheating. They were planning to use my house, Lucas's home, as their dirty little love nest. I thought about Lucas, my son, who held Sophia's hand at their wedding. His eyes bright with pure happiness, now being betrayed behind his back. I slipped back to the bedroom, pulled open the drawer, and took out Lucas's old college voice recorder. I checked the battery, my hands shaking. I remembered Lucas joking, "Mom, this thing can record secrets." I put in new batteries and set it to continuous record. I hid it behind a bookshelf near the bed, making sure it would capture every sound. I taped the cable down, covering it with a family photo, the one from Lucas and Sophia's wedding. Their fake smiles were like daggers to my heart. I checked the recorder one last time, hiding the wire completely under the frame. Then I climbed back into bed and pretended to be asleep. Vincent returned, collapsed, and started snoring immediately, but my eyes were wide open in the dark, more alert than ever. I stared at the ceiling, remembering my mother's words. "Maria, you are stronger than you think. Don't let anyone steal your dream." Her voice was a fire, fueling my plan. I set my alarm earlier than usual. I closed my eyes, but I didn't sleep. I was ready for the next move. ATM. It was still dark. The house was dead quiet, save for Vincent's steady snoring. I stood in the kitchen, watching the dawn creep in, feeling like Austin was standing behind me, rooting for me to protect my kingdom. I picked up my cold coffee mug, looking at the pan of oil already sitting on the stove. This was the final step of my plan, a simple smoke alarm trap, enough to expose the whole truth. I tied a thin wire to the stove's ignition knob, looped it through a crack in the window, and secured it to an old coffee can in the cabinet. One quick tug from a distance, and the fire would ignite, creating thick, black smoke that would panic the neighbors. After slightly cracking the window for the smoke to escape, I packed my large bag, ready to play the part of a departing traveler. I reached the door and stopped. I needed one final move to eliminate doubt. I crept back into the bedroom and gently shook Vincent. "I have to rush to the bus station." My voice was strangely calm. "Contract signing. I'll be back late tonight." He opened his eyes, groggy. "Be careful, Maria." Call me if you need anything. Then he buried his face in the pillow and instantly fell back asleep. I looked at the man I once loved, now lying there, oblivious to the trap waiting for him. I turned, my heart heavy, but my steps firm. However, just as I reached the front door and picked up my bag, my heart nearly stopped. Vincent was suddenly right there. He hugged my waist from behind as if nothing was wrong. The strange perfume on his collar made me fight to keep my composure. Maria, are you really leaving? Let me walk you to the bus station. My heart hammered. If he followed me, the whole plan was ruined. I smiled, turning around, forcing the calmest tone possible. No, honey. Go back to sleep. I can handle it. He stared at me for 3 long, agonizing seconds, then unexpectedly leaned in for a kiss on my forehead. I dodged him, pretending to reach for a key on the side table. I'm off now, Vincent nodded, finally turning back toward the room. As I turned to leave, I felt a burning spreading in my chest. It wasn't pain or anger, but stone-cold resolve. The final showdown was about to begin. Instead of going to the bus station, I walked down my familiar street. I went straight to Mrs. Lopez's house, my neighbor and dear friend. She opened the door, concerned. Maria, so early. Is something wrong? She asked warmly. She pulled me inside and poured me a hot coffee. I forced a small smile. Mrs. Lopez, can I stay here for a few hours? I need to. Watch my house. She frowned, but didn't ask another question. She just pulled a chair near the window for me. I sat there, clutching the coffee mug, my eyes fixed on my house, the place I once believed was my sanctuary, now my battlefield. The stage is set. Maria is watching her house, the trap is armed, and Vincent is waiting for Sophia. Do you want to continue the story and describe the final moments of the trap, or should we pause here? From Mrs. Lopez's window, I watched the entrance to my house, where Vincent and Sophia were about to step in, where the truth would finally explode. The morning sun sliced through the oak trees, like stage lights illuminating the final act. Around a taxi pulled up. Sophia stepped out, wearing a flimsy floral dress and sunglasses that hid most of her face, as if afraid of being recognized. She glanced quickly down the street, the shifty eyes of a thief, but still radiating fake confidence. Vincent opened the door, his eyes darting around before he grabbed her arm and pulled her inside. I squeezed my coffee mug, my heart hammering like a war drum. It's time, I whispered, opening the phone app connected to the voice recorder hidden in the bedroom. The sounds flooded my headphones. Sophia's giggles, the clinking of glasses, heavy footsteps. The sound of wine glasses reminded me of the nights Vincent toasted my coffee shop's success. Now all a lie. Vincent's voice was low, smug. No more sneaking off to hotels now. Sophia laughed loudly. You really picked the right time. The nagging old woman is gone, right? I bit my lip, suppressing the rage boiling over as she called me that contemptible name. I remembered the day Sophia hugged me, thanking me for teaching her tiramisu, saying I was like a mother to her, all cold. Heart-freezing lies. The bed springs groaned, along with other sounds I couldn't bear to listen to. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and told myself, just a little longer, Maria. A few minutes later, Sophia shrieked. What the hell? I'm stuck. Her voice was panicked, almost choking. Vincent snarled. Shut up. Let me look. I pictured them struggling, glued tightly together by the super glue, like prey caught in the meticulous trap I had set. I smiled, my gaze sharp, knowing my plan was unfolding perfectly. I tapped the phone, activating the remote burglar alarm. Immediately, the siren wailed loudly from inside the house, red lights flashing through the windows, a beacon exposing their guilt. Mrs. Lopez gasped. Maria, your house is being robbed. She clutched my hand, her eyes worried and suspicious, as if sensing I was orchestrating a much larger drama. I pretended to be panicked, but inside, I was strangely calm. Neighbors started pouring out into their yards, yelling, Maria's house is being robbed. Call the police now. Distant police sirens sounded like the prelude to justice. Through the headphones, Sophia's desperate voice came through. Vincent, do something. I can't move, Vincent screamed back. Don't yell. I'm trying. But I knew they were completely helpless. The super glue had done its job, holding them fast in their most humiliating moment. I thought about the nights I stayed up making lattes, about the coffee shop dream I built, and told myself, they cannot steal it from me. A feeling of cold satisfaction crept in. I wasn't cruel. They were the ones who pushed me to the edge. They wanted to steal my coffee shop, my family, and my dignity. Now it was time for them to pay. The house alarm continued to blare, tearing apart the neighborhood's quiet. The crowd of neighbors grew, their panicked whispers spreading everywhere. What's happening? Maria is away on business, right? Mrs. Lopez stood close, gently squeezing my hand and whispering, Maria, you are stronger than you think. I'm here for you. I nodded slightly, thinking of my mother's letter, her words of strength now echoing in my ears. The truth was about to be revealed, and I was ready to face it. 10 minutes later, the police siren screamed, piercing the air. A patrol car sped up, screeching to a halt in front of the house. Lucas, my son, in his police uniform, jumped out, his face tight with tension. I looked at him, remembering the day he proudly told customers, my mother is the tiramisu queen. Now, he was about to face the cruelest truth. Quick check. There might be intruders inside. His voice rang out, full of professional determination. My chest ached. I wanted to run and hug him, to apologize, but I knew I had no other choice. I gripped Mrs. Lopez's hand, pleading with my eyes for her to keep me steady. Beneath the deafening siren, Lucas led his fellow officers into the house. The sound of the door being battered open was jarring. Through the headphones, I heard the chaotic noises from the bedroom, Vincent's desperate yells mixing with Sophia's sobs. Do something. I can't move. The squeaking bed springs bore witness to the shame unfolding. I bit my lip, clenching the phone, streaming the live audio. Everything was going according to plan. As Lucas stepped into the bedroom, I could vividly imagine the scene he witnessed. His father and his wife, naked, glued tight to each other on the bed, their faces distorted by pain and panic. What is this? Lucas's voice was trembling, shattered, like when he was a boy and fell off his bike, crying for his mother. One partner gasped in shock, another laughed but was quickly silenced by Lucas's sharp command, quiet. I knew that command wasn't just to keep order. It was a final, desperate attempt to hide the heartbreak ripping him apart. The shameful truth was fully exposed before Lucas, his colleagues, and the entire neighborhood. The whispers spread like wildfire. Father-in-law and daughter-in-law, caught in the act, yelled one man. Poor Maria, sighed another. Mrs. Lopez silently recorded the scene of Vincent and Sophia struggling, their faces contorted, then handed the phone to me. Maria, save this. You need it. She looked at me, her eyes full of sorrow and righteous indignation. You knew, didn't you? I nodded slightly, my eyes locked on the chaotic scene. My mother's words echoed again. Maria, you are stronger than you think, giving me strength. Lucas emerged with heavy, numb steps. Vincent yelled, his voice raw. Get everyone out. Close the door, Lucas. But it was too late. The entire neighborhood had gathered, their stares of contempt and whispers of shame forming a terrifying chorus. The police quickly wrapped Vincent and Sophia in sheets, trying to hide the clinging bodies, but the disgust in people's eyes was palpable. Lucas, his face ghostly white, signaled his partner, call an ambulance. They need a doctor immediately. The ambulance arrived, siren blaring. Vincent and Sophia were loaded onto stretchers. Sophia was sobbing, while Vincent mumbled, Don't let anyone see, but the whole block had witnessed the snickers, the scorn, the disappointed head shakes. The ambulance door slammed shut, the final curtain call for the despicable drama they created. I walked out from Mrs. Lopez's house, feigning a panicked rush back from the bus station, my eyes red. Lucas stood motionless in the yard, his face pure white. I knew he was not just shocked but shattered by the betrayal of the two people he loved most. At the hospital, I maintained the worried expression of a wife whose house had been burgled. Hours later, the doctor emerged. Mrs. Martinez, we successfully separated them. Luckily, there was no severe injury. They just need soothing cream, I nodded, my feigned worry expertly masking the smoldering fire of revenge. Thank you, doctor. My voice trembled appropriately. I took the 2 tubes of cream from the nurse. In the chaotic hallway, I quickly swapped the real soothing cream for the tube of highly concentrated menthol oil I had hidden in my bag. My movements were fast and precise, like measuring ingredients for tiramisu, ensuring no suspicion. I walked into the room, holding the menthol oil. Vincent, Sophia, are you two okay? Sophia was curled up, hair messy, red eyes refusing to meet mine. Vincent, pale-faced, stammered, Maria, I can explain. I cut him off, stone cold, and placed the fake cream on the table. A few minutes later, the heartbreaking screams began. Sophia shrieked, my skin is on fire. Vincent bellowed, what the hell is this? Their cries echoed down the hall, the symphony of justice I had painstakingly composed. A young nurse whispered, that's the couple from the TikTok video this morning. She quickly posted an Instagram story, Austin drama. I stood in the hallway, offering a faint smile. I knew they would never forget this moment. Doctors and nurses rushed in, washed their skin immediately, get the neutralizing solution. But I knew no solution could wash away the humiliation they brought upon themselves. During the chaos, I quietly slipped the 2 Viagra pills from the pack in the car next to Vincent's pain medication, hoping he'd take them himself. Moments later, Vincent took the pills. His face flushed red, his eyes darted around in panic, and he awkwardly tried to pull the sheet higher to conceal his embarrassing erection, even while still writhing from the menthol burn. The next morning, I discreetly sent the remaining Viagra to the nurse with a note. Did the stud enjoy the 2 Viagra pills yesterday? Use the rest to boost his stamina. Vincent read the note, went white and stammered, Maria, I'm sorry. I was wrong, but his eyes still betrayed the lie. As the crowd dispersed, Lucas walked in, carrying the thick envelope I had hidden in the drawer filled with all the evidence and the 2 sets of divorce papers I had prepared. He handed it to me, his eyes empty, without saying a word. I looked at my son, whose eyes were now like a frozen Austin lake, devoid of light. I clutched the envelope. I pulled out the papers and placed them on the table in front of Vincent and Sophia. Looking straight into Vincent's eyes, my voice was ice. 35 years of marriage ends here. Sign it, then do whatever you want, as long as you both vanish from Lucas's life and mine. Sophia collapsed into tears, turning to Lucas, pleading, honey, forgive me. I was wrong, please. As Vincent and Sophia writhed from the menthol burn, I quietly stepped into the hallway and called my lawyer. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers walked into the room. Vincent Martinez, you are under arrest for fraud, misappropriation of assets, and forgery, Sophia screamed. I'm not involved. Vincent turned pale, looking at me. Maria, you've destroyed the family. I looked him straight in the eye, my voice firm. No, the family was destroyed by you a long time ago. Oh, and that fake power of attorney? My lawyer has already submitted it. As for emotional abuse, I won't push for jail time for that. But the court will decide, by the way. My lawyer also filed a claim for $500,000 in emotional damages, exactly the amount you quietly withdrew from our joint account to buy gifts for her. You'll be paying back every dime from your prison allowance. Vincent tried to grab my hand, his voice trembling. Maria, listen to me. I didn't want this. I just wanted to feel young again, Maria, but I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I yanked my hand back, cutting him off. Don't talk, Vincent. You chose this path, he yelled in despair. Maria, I beg you. But the nurses and police pulled him away. Lucas looked at Sophia one last time, his gaze a mixture of pain and disappointment, then turned and walked away without a word. He said nothing, but I knew his heart was shattered. I stood tall, the woman who built a coffee shop empire in the heart of Austin, and then I turned, without looking back. In the hallway, I found Lucas leaning against the wall, his hands gripping his head. I walked up and placed my hand on his shoulder, but he didn't look up. "Mom," he whispered, his voice broken. "Why Dad? Why her?" His voice sounded like when he fell off his bike as a child, calling for me in tears, and my heart broke again. I didn't answer, I just held him tight, sharing his pain with my own. In that moment, I understood that Vincent and Sophia had lost everything: their honor, their marriage, and their dark plot. But Lucas and I had also lost a family. I could only hope time would bring us peace. Lucas moved back in with me right after that fateful day. He was quiet, his eyes distant, carrying a deep, raw wound. "Mom, I want to stay here for a while," he said that first night, bringing his suitcase in. "I'll help you run the shop, anything you need." I just nodded and held him tight. Weeks after the scandal, my coffee shop was busier than ever. The coffee machine hissed, the aroma of fresh pastries filled the air, testimony to the small kingdom I had successfully defended. Everyone called me resilient. Dinner was just the two of us now, sitting across from each other in the small kitchen. Our meals were simple, yet strangely peaceful. "Mom, can you make tiramisu this weekend?" Lucas asked one evening, a faint smile on his lips, the first since the scandal. I looked at him, feeling immense relief. "Of course," I replied, "but you have to help me stir the caramel." He nodded. In that moment, I felt us slowly starting to heal. Now, every heart I draw on a latte is no longer a painful memory, but a declaration of a new life. I found strength not in revenge, but in rebuilding. This coffee shop, Lucas, and the peace in my soul that is my true victory. Vincent and Sophia are paying the price for their betrayal, but this story isn't about them anymore. It's about the light after the darkness, and the mother's love that survived the hurt. When Lucas said, "Mom, let's make that first batch of tiramisu again tomorrow," I knew we had truly mended. I am Maria, and this is my journey of rebirth. We have been through this journey of dramatic justice together, but the most haunting moment was Lucas's silent sacrifice. If you have ever been betrayed by a loved one and are searching for the strength to rise, subscribe to the channel right now to join us in spreading this fire of resilience. Your subscription supports a community where no one has to fight alone, and hearts can find healing after the hurt. Don't miss the next chapter, where buried family secrets will be exposed to truth that will leave you breathless. And what about you? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Do you have a badass way of dealing with a betrayer you want to share? Every comment you leave is invaluable.